ImperialCars.com.
Headline, Luka Doncic to L.A. The Lakers will get Luka, Maxi Keebler, and Markieff Morris. The Mavericks add Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and a 2029 Lakers first. Just that one pick. Danny Ainge and the Utah Jazz also involved in this one. They added Jalen Hood-Schifino and 2 second-round picks. The Celtics will host the new-look Mavericks later this week, but first, the C's visit the Sixers tonight. Coverage starts at 5:30 right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. The Bruins picked up a win yesterday. They beat the New York Rangers 6-3. David Pastrnak had a hat trick in that one, 4 points total. The 2025 Pro Bowl games wrap up today in Orlando. Drake May is there representing the Patriots. And in local college hoops yesterday, big win in the Big East for UConn as the 25th ranked Huskies upset number 9 Marquette 77-69. And Providence came up just short at MSG against number 15 St. John's. They lost 68-66. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Own for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. And those are your Sports Hub headlines. Next update at 9 o'clock.
win. We penetrate, we win.
Getting you ready for a long day of football coverage. The Pats, league news, betting lines, and game odds. This is the show that has it all covered. Sunday Kickoff, brought to you by Surfside Iced Tea and Vodka, Prolotherapy, and Hooters. Now, here are Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle.
Good morning and welcome into Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff on February 2nd, 2025. Happy Groundhog Day, everybody. It's Alex Barth, Cerrone Battle, George Sepulveda behind the glass this morning as we get going on a Pro Bowl week edition of Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. We actually are going to talk a little Pro Bowl today, a little bit. Believe it or not, as diluted as that event, I can't even call it a game anymore. As diluted as that event has gotten, we will get to that. Obviously, a big week is the NFL offseason kind of starts to kick off down at the Super Bowl week. There'll be people there mingling, networking, all of that. Senior Bowl was this week as well, so that's big for the draft. We'll have Taylor Kiles of CLNS Media joining us in a little bit. I'm seeing right here it is 8 degrees out, so pour a warm cup of coffee and let's get going for the next 2 hours, plus your calls, 617-779-0985. But as we get started, Cerrone, I got to say off the top, real quick, 30 seconds on Luka to L.A., because that was mind-blowing last night.
I thought it was fake. I saw the news. I woke up this morning, I saw it. I was like, people would just put anything on the internet now. And I went on Twitter, and it's bigger than the 2 plane crashes. It's like, hey, so what? Anyway, about that. Luka to LA, but I'm like, well, Luka must have got in trouble or something. He said, I'm not coming back. He's got to be holding out or whatever. I don't know why they would trade him. For the Lakers, I don't see why you wouldn't, take that offer. And I immediately thought, I said, oh, that's LeBron's replacement. If LeBron leaves this year, you've got a 25, 26-year-old superstar who can carry a franchise under contract for a while, and you got him in the building and they know LeBron's leaving, so they got his replacement there. For this year, I think both teams are going to be terrible. But for the future, I completely understand for L.A. Dallas, somebody about to get fired, man. I can't explain it.
Somebody's. That should probably be plural. Dallas must know something we don't about Luka.
Yeah,
that's the only
something's
thing
going to come out.
Right, makes it make sense to me. Hopefully, we will have a trade of that magnitude to break down at some point on this show with the Patriots, DK Metcalf. But in the meantime, like we're just getting started here with this offseason for the Patriots, and you hope I want to say you hope they make that level of splash. I don't know, that level may be a little bit much even for what the Patriots need to do, but I think
you don't want it that big, because in order for it to be that big, you got to give up something big in return.
Right,
so
they don't really have the guy to trade to make
you can't
that
give up a
kind
Gonzalez
of
or Drake May.
Right, it would be trading Drake May. The young superstar for what? It'd be trading Drake May for like Matthew Stafford. But so hopefully not that big, or at least if it is that big, maybe they end up on the other side of it, right? Maybe they're the team trading who would the older veteran star? I guess Hunter Henry, but
Ramondre Stevenson
really
and Henry for T. Higgins.
For T. Higgins or DK Metcalf or somebody. But hopefully we get some sort of splashes like that. I think we will start to get an idea as we transition here into the Patriots. Thank you to everybody for humoring us there for a little bit. I just, I saw that last night. I'm on the radio now. I got to give a thought on it.
Wow.
Hopefully, as we get going here this week, we start to get a blueprint of what the Patriots offseason will be. I think this is a sneaky important week. It's not quite the networking extravaganza that the Combine is, where everybody's there, everybody's talking. It's 2 weeks before free agency. There's like deadlines. You're figuring things out. But there is sort of that element to this week. And maybe it's not all the agents and all the GMs, but there's agents there. There's media people there. I think I wouldn't expect it tomorrow, right? I wouldn't expect it on Monday. But by the end of this week, into the start of next week, I do think we maybe start hearing some rumblings, and maybe it's not specific players, but hey, this team is interested in these sorts of players, or, this player is likely to be traded, or this player is, more likely or less likely to re-sign with his current team, a pending free agent, things like that. So I think in that regard, this is going to be a big week for news to start trickling out, because when we've talked about this, Cerrone, the the Patriots, there's not one direction the Patriots need to go in this offseason. Like last year, it was clear cut. And did they follow that? Not so much, but it was like, all right, you need a quarterback. Tackle's got to be a premium edition. Wide receivers got to be a premium edition. Keep the defense together. Like it was very paint by number. This offseason, to me, there's definitely better ways than others, I would say. But I don't know that there's like one definitive path that looks correct. That will start emerging as they make moves in free agency. It's going to, the draft comes more into focus and things like that. But I don't know that there's like one exact path that the Patriots need to be on this offseason, have a successful offseason. So as we start getting some information to what they're thinking, hopefully this week, it's going to kind of give us an idea of what direction this thing may go.
Do you think it's more important for them to get deals done early before free agency, before the draft? Well, if you can, whatever, legally.
Do you mean like trades or like retaining your own
or get
guy?
an idea? Okay, this is what we need to do. That way, before free agency, like for example, let's say if you swing a deal for a big time player on the D line, does that change your draft strategy? Okay, now we don't need Abdul Carter, we don't need Graham. We're good on the D line. Now we can focus on this. So, like, is it important this week coming up or these early days, you said the combine, things like that, to have these deals done and in place before free agency and before the draft? That way you have a better idea what you need to really target and go after in free agency and in the draft.
Yes and no. I mean, the more you know always helps. I would say a good amount of fact-finding for them, and this will be later on. This won't be this week, but, like, the part of the beauty of having, I shouldn't say the beauty of having the fourth pick because you lost a bunch of games, but part of what's good, obviously it's good you're picking high, but you also have this element of, people do their intel, they kind of figure out, and I think if you're picking in the top 5, you can sort of play this game. It might be harder this year, honestly, than in the past, but if Shedeur, Cam Ward, and Travis Hunter are going in the top 3. And, like, I don't think that, let me put it this way. Shedeur, Cam Ward, and Abdul Carter going in the top 3, right? Mm-hmm. If you can kind of figure that out, okay, well, now we know we're getting Travis Hunter. And Travis Hunter is probably a bad example because we don't know what position he's going to play, but let's say they're drafting him as a corner. It's like, okay, we know we're getting Travis Hunter. We don't need to spend, allocate a ton of resources to get a second quarter opposite Gonzalez, or if it's Carter, right? Okay, we don't need to go all out to get Josh Sweat because our intel tells us that we're going to get Carter in the draft. That doesn't mean don't sign an edge rusher. You never know. Things change, but maybe that becomes less of a priority. So figuring that thing out, I think making a trade early would be helpful, would be good. I don't know that it's realistic because especially when we talk about these wide receivers, right, to go back to the DK Metcalf thing. He's demanding a trade, in theory, as leverage to get a new contract. He's in the last year. He's entering last year of his deal. He doesn't have a ton of guaranteed money, and this is what Ayuk did. This is what Tyreek Hill did. This is what all these guys do. Call them pre-agents. It's a year before free agency. They want to get the deal taken care of. So he demands a trade. He's going to hold out for the best contract, and part of that is probably getting to that free agency window because teams, as players sign, their plans are going to change, right? T. Higgins signs. Now maybe a team's more desperate, is willing to give him more money. So it would be great if they could get those kind of deals done early, and I'm not saying it's impossible. Make the offer he can't refuse, right, contractually. And then you also got to get the trade done, but make the offer he can't refuse contractually so he doesn't feel like he needs to wait. It can be done, but it's, that's really putting your cards all on the table. So go ahead.
I'm asking as more of a fan of anything now, and I know you have more of an understanding of this. So, realistically, when could we expect around the NFL, a timeline of when the fireworks really start? When do you normally start seeing the notifications on your phone that deals are getting done? What time of year would you start seeing that?
So those trades, maybe it's not in a free agency. I think sometimes they do happen a little before the new league year. So I'd say the week between the combine and free agency, that's when you're in. It might not be concrete, hey, this happened, but we'll get there's a ton of smoke around this, or this player's getting traded, we just don't know to who yet or what the deal is, or that kind of thing. Usually that week after the combine, there'll be some rumors here and there, but that week after the combine is when it's really going to ramp up.
Okay. I'm just asking as a fan, hey, I want to see this team do something too. I want to see
Right.
I want to see the notifications. I want to wake up to be blown away by something crazy. And I know if they're involved in something, it's better for them. They're not being, they're not sellers here. They're trying to get more talent in. So I'm looking forward to this team to making moves, and I want to see what kind of direction they're trying to go as a team, what kind of team they're trying to build here. Are they trying to make a team that's dominant on the ground, a team, a tight end team, a spread offense team? I want to just see what they're trying to do, what their plan is, how they're going to attack this season, this offseason. And so I'm just really curious to see when the moves are going to start coming in, when the rumors are going to really start picking up about what direction this team is heading in.
Yeah, I would say we've probably got a couple weeks until like the things I'm talking about this week are just general outline stuff. And the other thing that helps is, and I don't know this, I'm just guessing, this isn't a report, but it feels like they've probably hired most of their coaches at this point.
Yeah.
Wide receivers coach is still out there. That's still a big unknown. Mike Reese wrote about that this morning in his Sunday notes, mentioned Wes Welker as a potential fit for that. But it feels like most of the coaches have been hired. So I feel like we should get a coaching staff announcement probably soon. Yeah. I would think this week. So that will also kind of tell us, okay, these are their coaches, and now we know who's in what role. We know Doug Marrone's going to work with the offensive line, right, for instance. But is Doug Marrone the offensive line coach? Or is he some sort of senior assistant that is focusing on the offensive line, that sort of thing? So we get an idea of really, is it his kinds of players? Is it another offensive line coach, something like that? So I think as we get that, this week's more about the outline of it. I would say we maybe get some stuff in that regard. And then it'll be probably about another month, and then we'll start getting the more direct player, like individual player name kind of details. There'll be rumors the whole time. And to your point, I think every time we hear a player mentioned this offseason, because of the draft capital the Patriots have, because of the salary cap space they have, because of the situation they're in, where they can't drag this rebuild out. Because of all of that, every time we hear a player, I think there's going to be some question about, are the Patriots involved? Is this a Patriots target? This and that. I do think it's going to be one of those things over the next month.
Yeah. It's probably going to be extreme. Whenever, like you said, whenever you hear anything about a disgruntled player or anything like that, it's like, okay, could he be a possible Patriot? I mean, it's going to kind of be cool. I would say it's going to be different for this team. But I just don't want to see this team go through another offseason of near misses. We could have had this guy. We almost had this guy. We were right there with this guy. And I think one way they can do that, as opposed to waiting just on free agency, is probably through the trade market. I mean, it's just I think it's an easier way to land the guys you want, as opposed to trying to sell them on, New England, where, like you said, it's currently 6 degrees or 8 degrees outside right now. Well, not an easy sell.
You still might have to sell him, because for a guy like Metcalf, he's going to want a new contract. You've got to convince him he's going to want to stay. And we talked about this last week. I know there was that clip of him saying, I couldn't see myself living in Massachusetts for $35 million a year.
It's $35 million. Google it.
Right. Rhode Island's right there. It's not a bad commute, right? That sort of thing. So, and it's a good point. That's why you'll hear me refer to the veteran market, right? The team should add a player through the veteran market, which is basically shorthand for free agency or trade. Those two things should be considered relatively equally as we go through this thing. And the veteran market will be a big part of it. But they do have to hit in the draft this year. They have to hit. You can't have sustained success in the NFL without succeeding in the draft. This was a big week in the pre-draft process. The showcase games were underway, including the Senior Bowl down in Mobile. That wrapped up yesterday. Let's get into some standouts. What potential future Patriots played in the Senior Bowl this week? Who stood out? Who's on the radar? We'll do that, plus your call, 617-779-0985, here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub. early to talk football on Sunday.
Coming to the game on Sunday.
This is Sunday Kickoff with Barth and Cerrone Battle on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Last shot as the American team makes their move. Hennigan on the move. Looking. Yes. Got it. Jack Bash has his Mobile moment.
That's a walk-off.
And the American team swarms Jack Bash.
One of the standouts of Senior Bowl week, Jack Betch. So for people who don't know, the Senior Bowl is one of the big events on the pre-draft calendar. It's a showcase game. It's an all-star game. It's a showcase game. Basically, so it's not the top prospects, right? Guys who know they're going top 10, top 15 usually don't go. So Abdul Carter wasn't there. Will Campbell wasn't there. Travis Hunter wasn't there. There are first-round picks, but it's some lower first-round picks, and usually it's a bunch of guys going in like the 20 to 120 range. We'll call it that. A few guys lower on the board, too. They usually invite some small school guys who they think can, really help their stock on that stage, things like that. And some guys did do that this week. It's a big week for the small school guys. But, a bunch of the top draft prospects go. They practice for 3 days. They play a game. The practices, it's just like training camp. Like, teams watch the practices. They evaluate the players in that sense. And then, obviously, the game plays a factor, too. It's player evaluation there. And players can help and hurt their draft stock. It's not make or break. You don't go from being like a, projected late day 3 pick to a first rounder because of the Senior Bowl. At the end of the day, the heavy majority of the evaluation is the football you play during the season or seasons for guys who are multi-year starters. What the Senior Bowl is good for is, on one hand, if you have, and we'll get to how this impacts the Patriots, like if you're a team and you look at 3 or 4 players, 3, 4, 5 players, like similarly, and you want to sort them out, right? Rank within the tiers, Maz's tiers. This can be like a good tiebreaker sort of event, this in the combine. And for the smaller school guys, or maybe guys that miss time due to injury, or guys who are changing position, they might have a little more variance because you're learning a little bit more information. Like last year, for example, Quinion Mitchell, corner out of Toledo, Max school, smaller conference, goes to the Senior Bowl. And he was kind of a fringe first-round pick last year going into this, and he showed, I can hang with the big boys, right? It's not. I'm not out here playing Miami of Ohio. These are SEC wide receivers I'm going against. So he kind of secured his spot as a first-round pick. That was the big story last year, one of the bigger stories last year. The big story this year to me for the Patriots, the main event for the Patriots, which I called it last week, we talked about sorting those players out. If it's not Will Campbell or Kelvin Banks at the top of the draft, the Patriots need a tackle. The next group of tackles is Josh Simmons from Ohio State, Ariante Ursary from Minnesota, and Josh Connerly from Oregon. Simmons is coming off a torn patella, so he was actually there talking to teams, but he did not take part, so put him to the side. Ursary and Connerly. There are 2 questions with those guys. One, who's the better option? Because it's 2 guys that, again, are close. They're different players stylistically. Connerly's more of a technician. He's more technically sound, but he's a little smaller. Ursary's like big, overpowering, very athletic, but he's a little more raw. And it's, who do you think is the better player? And then will either one be there at 38? These are guys that are kind of projected to go in the 25 to 40 range. Are the Patriots going to need to trade up to get them, or could they maybe sit at 38 and get one of those guys? For me, Connerly had some very good moments. He also struggled, especially in the game. Ursary didn't have the overwhelming success in moments that Connerly did, but he was steady throughout. And at that position, give me steady. So I liked what I saw from Ursary, more so. I'm not necessarily concerned about Connerly from his performance. I just didn't think it was as good. But I will say, if teams are going to put more weight into that game, I do wonder if there's a chance now that Josh Connerly falls to 38, which might be a blessing in disguise for the Patriots. A bad Senior Bowl week. If they believe in the player and just say, well, he had a bad week, they chalk it up to that, then maybe he's in play. the other tackle-related thing to me, because it folds in, is there depth to this class? Is there anybody a little later? Anthony Belton from NC State, another one of these massive tackles, 6'5", 345 long arms, career left tackle at NC State, played some right tackle this week, looked good. He could be a good option if the Patriots want to double up, or maybe they want to find real competition for Caden Wallace at the starting right tackle spot. So I would say overall, if you're a Patriots fan, good news from the tackles at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah, it's just listen to you describe it. It seems like there's a lot of depth to it. And I was going to ask you, could you see a run on tackles to where 5-6 guys go that quickly before they're picking in the second round? Could you see that many tackles coming off the board that early?
Yes. So some people right now are projecting 5 in the first round, which could happen. Part of that is it's just a weak first round. Part of it is that. So this draft's kind of tough to judge. There were some reports this week that some teams only have, 8 to 10 players with first round grades. And look, you got to make the picks. So more players than that are going to go. So maybe some of these tackles shoot up. Campbell and Banks are going to be first round picks. Armand Membu from Missouri, who's a right tackle. He's the top right tackle in this class. He was supposed to take part in the Senior Bowl. He was hurt, or he was sick, I think. But he's going to be a first round pick. Josh Simmons is the wild card. So he had the same injury Cole Strange did. And he suffered that in late October. So where he's at medically is probably going to impact where he ends up, if he's a first-round pick or not. And then I could see Connerly or Ursery sneaking into the first round. So that's 5. If they both go, that would be 6. At that point, I don't know if there's that many teams that need tackles that badly. But it is, there's always a shortage. I just hope if that does happen, the Patriots learn their lesson from last year and get aggressive and are willing to give a little more to move up the board so they don't get stuck, just taking whoever's left. Because that's what happened. That's what happened last year, and they ended up with Caden Wallace, who I didn't think was a bad prospect, but they needed a left tackle. They got a right tackle. They need a guy with a high ceiling. They got a guy that was more floor than ceiling. So I would hope that they get aggressive if that happens. I could see there being a run. If there is a run, they should play into it. And if they don't get, if they get Campbell or Banks at the top,
it didn't matter.
You have your tackle, right? You're done. Maybe that's where a guy like, maybe Anthony Belton comes in late on day 2 or early on day 3 to add some depth. But if not, I'd hope they're part of that and move up. Anybody you saw, any names you heard coming out of Mobile that interested you?
Well, and not in the tackle positions. I seen there was
just across the board.
Across the board, it was a huge conversation on the receivers. The kid from Illinois looked like he really showed out.
Pat Bryant.
Pat Bryant.
Yeah, he had a good week.
know him from playing NCAA 25.
This is going to happen this year. I love it. This is going to happen this year. Yeah, Barth, he was really good for me in my dynasty. My brother did this.
Who he was. I'm like, and I felt like the Leonardo DiCaprio meme on the couch, like, oh, that's the guy. That's him.
I hate to expose my brother like this, but he texted me last week and he goes, "Do you like Jalen Royals? I think he's a good player, but I'm mostly going off my dynasty." And this was when everybody was all into Jalen Royals. So yes, Eric, he is good.
But yeah, it was good to see that he's actually really that good in person. When you see him showing out at the Senior Bowl during the one-on-one events. I didn't see what he really did during the game, but during the 3 days of practice, it looked like he was making a real name for himself. And of course, I've seen him play before, but Strippo from Miami. Yeah. And I'm looking like, there's your Lad McConkey right there. There he is. Don't miss him this time. But I mean, I think people should have seen enough of him. If you're a big fan of Cam Ward, you had to obviously look at who he was throwing to. And I think he's a good player. I think he's real shifty. But I'm just wondering, I know we'll probably get into it later. Does he have, I wouldn't say the same, is he Jalen Polk? Is he a cross between Jalen Polk and Pop Douglas? Will you have too many guys like that, or do you need somebody a little bigger on the outside? So, I mean, it's going to be interesting, but I thought the receivers really made a name for themselves. And I want to get into this later and get into a little more. I didn't see any conversation about the running backs, and I feel like I'm the only one in the world that wants them to take a good running back. But I just, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah. We'll get into that in a little bit.
So a couple things to what you just said. I thought Restrepo was good. I think he is more that true Josh McDaniels slot receiver. Yeah. I think he's built for the volume. He's good after the catch. Polk, to me, And I don't think they should count on Jalen Polk. He's going to be on the team because he's a second-round pick, but they need somebody reliable in that role. Look, if Polk beats out whoever they bring in, veteran, rookie, whatever, right, great. That means he took a massive step forwards. But the guy that's similar, and it's if they want to go, so Restrepo is more that classic jitterbug, quick more than fast slot receiver that we think of. Julian Edelman, Wes Welker, Troy Brown, right. If they want to go with the big slot, the power slot, which is more Jacoby Myers or what Jalen Polk was supposed to be, that to me is Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, who had a very good week, moves incredibly well for his size. Maybe Jack Beck, too. I think he's more of an inside-outside guy than, he's not a guy you're going to leave in the slot. He can play there. But he could be somebody like that. On the running backs, it was a tough week to talk about the running backs because it's tough when it's non-contact practices and all of that. I will say Ollie Gordon, I thought, had a very good week and played well in the game.
Yep.
That's the guy, if you want that big bruiser downhill.
Derrick Henry, 2.0.
Early down, right. Oh, he's not quite that big, but
he's not that fast. I don't think he is.
No, but it is funny you bring that up because watching him on the field, he's a huge guy. He doesn't look like a running back. He looks like an edge rusher. Yeah. And so we know Mike Vrabel has had success with that physically imposing running back kind of player. We'll see where he goes. I forget who it was on the panel. I think it was Charles Davis, but I'm not positive. One day during practice, they did this thing in between drills where everybody was assigned a team, and you had to make a case for that team to draft one of the players from the Senior Bowl, and whoever it was, their argument, and it was one of those segments where it felt like, okay, you're not reporting things, but this feels like maybe a way to report things you're hearing without them being reports. You know what I'm talking about? And he said that he had the Giants. And he said, my pick, top of the second round, Ollie Gordon to replace Saquon Barkley. And I was like, I like Ollie Gordon, but top of the second round. Wow.
Yeah.
So that kind of blew me away. So maybe he becomes a little too much. His draft stock's a little too high for the Patriots. Donovan Edwards had an awesome week as a pass-catching back. So did LaQuint Allen from Syracuse. I thought they were really good.
And to me, that screams Josh McDaniels.
Yeah. If you're going to go back to the early down, passing down thing, Ollie Gordon and LaQuint Allen, pair those two together, you're off and running. Donovan Edwards is a good runner, too. He's better, but think like Rex Burkhead in that he can do both roles. And his draft stock plummeted this year because he had a bad year, so maybe you get him for value. Same for Gordon. So that's a couple Senior Bowl thoughts. Let's talk to somebody who was there and get some boots on the ground opinions. Taylor Kyles, CLNS Media. He was at the Senior Bowl. He joins us next here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub. football game starts with the kickoff. This is Sunday Kickoff with Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle on your home for Patriots football. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
We've got Taylor Kyles from CLNS Media. He was down at the Senior Bowl this week. First-hand account of what went on down in Mobile. Taylor, good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Morning, fellas. How we doing?
Good. Let's start off with what I've been calling the main event for the Patriots at the Senior Bowl, the tackle position. Josh Connerly, Ariante Ursery. Did either of those players stand out to you as a player who could have a future protecting Drake May's blindside?
I'd say Ariante Ursery maybe more than Josh Connerly Jr. I thought both guys honestly, they definitely had their flashes, and I think both guys are still worthy of, that top 50 range. But at the same time, they did take some losses. So, those guys were kind of being talked about towards the top of the class. Obviously not the best tackle class we've seen. But Connerly, everyone's seen the play where he kind of got run over by Mike Green. Mike Green ended up falling down. I know you guys talked about that, so I don't want to give him too much credit, but I do think Connerly's probably a better fit, more of a zone scheme. And with Josh McDaniels coming back, you figure he wants to go more to that downhill type of run style that he ran when he was here in New England. So Ariante Ursery seems like he's probably more of a fit. That's the really big, thick guy, really good center of mass. He's going to be able to handle the power. He's going to be able to move guys. And he's got enough athleticism to still be able to win on the edge, whether he's on the left or on the right.
So I know those are the two big tackles everybody talked about coming in, but you have another tackle that caught your attention?
Oh, I think I do. Anthony Belton out of NC State, man. I don't make the Trent Brown comparison lightly or anything like that, and I will say, Trent Brown, that dude had basketball feet, so it's not a one-to-one, but the way that Trent always played in pass protection like he was in control, where he was like, you're not going through me, and I'm, shading you half. I'm playing half a man, right? I'm protecting my leverage, so I pretty much know where you're going to go, because if you do anything else, I'm going to stop you. And that was Anthony Belton, man. He played on the left. He played on the right. He even played at left guard. And the only person I saw beat him with any consistency was David Walker out of Central Arkansas, undersized edge rusher, who made himself some money this weekend. But Belton was a brick wall. And I feel like he's the kind of guy the Patriots will maybe target if they don't get an offensive tackler like a Will Campbell in the first round. But I was really, really impressed by him. Massive dude, got the athleticism. I wanted to see him play with more patience and really maximize those things, and I thought he did that this week.
Could you see a scenario where the Patriots double up? Could you see them taking one early, and then if one of these guys is still around later on, third round or whatever, could you see them doubling up on the offensive line, in the tackle position to add depth to this team, early on, try and snag two, I would say blue chip guys, but two guys at let's say one of these guys I mentioned earlier, if they're 5-6 deep, could you see them grabbing the 6th, 7th best tackle out of this draft and trying to double up at that position?
Absolutely, because as much as I like Caden Wallace, he didn't play much last year. It was unfortunate because of an injury, but with the new regime, they're not going to bank on him being the guy this season. So I think it makes a lot of sense, honestly, to double dip. And one guy I'd maybe have on the radar for that is Carson Vinson out of Alabama A&M. Loved his demeanor on and off the field. He was a competitive guy. He's got some nastiness, some finish to him. We know Mike Vrabel's Patriots, they want effort and they want finish. Vincent showed that. Really energetic and charismatic off the field when I spoke to him in interviews as well. But most importantly, he showed off his size and his athleticism. Now, he's coming from an HBCU, so relatively unheralded because not a lot of people got eyes on him during the season. But against some top competition, he showed what he can do and actually won one-on-ones. I believe it was against Shamar Stewart. And actually have the defense doing push-ups. So if they can find a couple of these Senior Bowl guys, even Holland Pierce, who was at the Shrine Bowl, and they really want to solidify the tackle spot with some guys that they know can move around and play different roles, I'm all for it.
Again, we're talking to Taylor Kyles, CLNS Media. Senior Bowl recap here. Taylor was down there in Mobile. Beyond the tackles, who stood out to you as a potential Patriots fit?
So you got to go with Jack Bech, right? Caught the game-winning, buzzer-beating touchdown yesterday in the actual Shrine Bowl, and that really put an exclamation point on what was a great week of practice for him. He caught everything that came his way pretty much. Was also, you notice him even when he wasn't actually involved in reps. He was celebrating with guys. At one point, an opponent got hurt. He helped carry him off the field. And, I mean, the story alone, his brother Tiger, unfortunately, was killed during the New Year's shooting in New Orleans, and really tragic. But, I mean, the perspective that Besh had was really pretty incredible for such a young guy, and was able to turn that tragedy, use it as motivation, and put together an outstanding week at the Senior Bowl. So I don't think anybody would be upset to see him in a Patriots uniform. Also, Darius Alexander, the Toledo defensive tackle, man, I don't know where he's going to go. I feel like he's locked himself into being a top 50 player. There's not a lot of defensive tackles that you're going to see kick outside and beat offensive tackles. Darius Alexander was doing that at 305 pounds he weighed in at the Senior Bowl. Like, this is a big dude with power. He's got great side-to-side bursts where he can beat guys across their face. Really rare athlete for the position. And I know, Alex, we've talked about it, defensive tackle may not be a premium position in a lot of people's eyes, but I think Darius Alexander could be a game wrecker at the next level, dominant against the run, a lot of flashes as a pass rusher, and still a lot of room to grow. So those two guys, if you hear their name called in April, I will not be mad. They seem like guys that could really be difference makers in the program. Besh more, that leadership role, but also being reliable. And then Alexander, with Terrell Williams and what he's done on the defensive line, he could be a game wrecker.
Just to go back to Betch real quick, because he seems like a guy that's pretty formationally versatile. Where do you see his role in a Josh McDaniels offense? Is he a big slot? Is he an X? Like, where would you see him playing in New England?
I see him in that Jacoby Myers kind of role, where he really is your power saw, like you said. He's the Z receiver in two receiver sets. And if you like the matchup outside, he doesn't have great speed, so you're not expecting him to win deep, but he's got great ball skills. So if you're saying, hey, this is a team like the Patriots in 2022 where they didn't have a corner who was 5'10", if that's the kind of receiver core I'm going up against, I'm giving Jack Besh some opportunities at X to just go up and dominate, because with his frame, his catch radius, those hands, and his competitiveness, he's going to be the one who wins if he's playing anybody who's shorter than him. So definitely scheme versatile, but I think you want him closer to the formation. Plus, he's a great blocker, so you don't really want him at X where he's not near the action.
But last one for me, it's kind of a couple positions you kind of don't hear mentioned a lot with the Patriots, but just your take on who you saw out there in these positions. Number one for me, of course, is running backs. Number two is the tight end position. Could you see the Patriots making a run on either one of those positions or both? Because I feel they need to get younger in those spots. How did the tight ends, and I know it's hard to tell with the running backs in this situation, but did you see anything that stood out with tight ends that could fall to them, possibly running backs later on in the draft?
So, the running backs, it's really hard to tell. I know Donovan Edwards sent somebody to the shadow realm, the running back out of Michigan. He had a really nice rep, but it's so tough with those linebackers and safeties in one-on-ones. It's kind of like if the linebacker or safety covers them, that's a standout rep because usually they should win. The tight ends, though, man, both of these positions, it feels like, I know I read somewhere that the running backs, it's like two draft class squeezed into one. That's a good way to put it, because there is a lot of talent in this class at running back. I'd be surprised if the Patriots don't get someone, considering Ramondre Stevenson, as good as he is, he has gotten hurt, and he hasn't really been the best version of himself consistently. And you have the fumble problems, right? So you would like some insurance and some kind of back that if somebody gets hurt could spell and actually be a really competitive player for you. And then tight ends, man, they put on a show this weekend. I love how this class works at the top of the route. They know how to use wiggle. They know how to use physicality. We're like Hunter Henry, not the most dynamic guy, but he knows how to use his frame and his size to really get separation. These guys do that, but they've also got some juice. The guy that really stood out to me was Arroyo out of Miami, Elijah Arroyo. He's a really good athlete, and I think he's somebody that I know last night he caught a touchdown while lined up out wide in the Senior Bowl. So Josh McDaniels, if he gets his hand on a guy like that, I think he could have a lot of fun moving him around the formation, creating some mismatches. But this tight end class, this running back class, on day 3, I'm hoping they get at least one player at both positions because there's plenty of talent in both their areas where the Patriots could use some young depth.
Taylor, as we wrap it up here, you mentioned the depth of the class, and there's obviously been a lot of talk this year that this maybe isn't the best draft class, that there's not as much talent as there's been in recent years. And I think there's some truth to that, but I also think every year early on, people assume the class isn't as good just because they're not as familiar with the players beyond like the top 20 because you don't get into that stuff till later in the year. And this was a lot of those players in that like 20 to 120 range. Walking away from this event and just other research you've done in the last few weeks, How did this impact your view of this draft class as a whole?
I feel good for the Patriots because assuming they use free agency to really plug their starting holes, and this isn't like last year where you're going in with multiple key spots on your roster that need starter adjacent level talent. If they can go in and say, we're getting the best guys, I think there's a lot of area for them to get better at spots where you look down the road, they're looking a little shaky. Like safety, for example, I mentioned the Syracuse safety. I'm forgetting his name right now, but he looks really good in coverage. I think safety is going to be an area where the Patriots could use some depth. We already said tight end, running back. Wide receiver, I think specifically for what the Patriots need, where you need somebody with size and separation ability. You've got guys with both. You've got guys with maybe one or the other, but I think they could mix into this Patriots group that, they've got a lot of youth, they've got talent, but there's not a lot of reliable guys, and this new regime may want some new fresh faces in there. So, yes, it's not maybe as top-heavy as last year's class, but I think as you go into day 2, day 3, you start to say, you know what? If I'm a Patriots fan, there's a lot of defensive line talent. There's a lot of offensive tackle talent if you get it in the right range, and then there's pass catchers, a lot of offensive skill players, and then even defensive backs. I haven't looked really deep into them, but I've heard good things there as well. So I think the depth is going to be good, but, it's going to come down, obviously, to the Patriots taking advantage of that and not forcing picks and really finding value, which I thought they did a good job of in day 3 last year.
He is Taylor Kyles from CLNS Media. You can follow him on social media at tkyles39. More Senior Bowl coverage from him at clnsmedia.com. Taylor, thanks for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Good stuff there from Taylor on the Senior Bowl. I have my recap up as well on 985thesportshub.com. Real quick here before we go to break. So that's a lot of talk about the rookie class. Tony in Canada wants to talk about potential free agents. Tony, good morning.
Hey, Alex. Good morning.
Hey.
Couple of things here to talk about. I'll see how quickly you kick me off the air.
If you can make it rapid fire, I'll let you go.
I'll try to make it rapid fire. Okay, got a complaint about your show.
Oh.
Yeah, everything's good, but I don't like the fact that you guys are going to be shutting it down before the season starts. I want your show to be year-round. And I'm sure a lot of fans out there feel the same way. I love your guys' show.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, a couple things real quick. So I heard when Tyreek Hill was complaining about wanting to get out of Miami, I didn't hear anyone talking about potentially signing someone like Stephon Diggs. And I know Tyreek is a pain in the butt, and Stephon had that injury. But if I were to pick the two, I would rather have Stephon Diggs than Tyreek Hill. And that's point number one. Point number two, prediction. Our running back, Stevenson, is either going to have his greatest year next season or he's going to be his last year, because you know what's going to happen. Vrabel's going to want to pound the ball, and if Stevenson has the fumbleitis, he ain't going to last long. So that's it, guys. I'll listen to the rest of the show. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Tony. On the first part, Hill and Diggs. So I'm good with Tyreek Hill. I'm good. Guy's gonna be 31. Had wrist issues. He's not played well in the cold. I'm all set. There. Diggs. I'm with the caller. I would rather have Diggs than Hill, but coming off an ACL, he's over 30.
ACL at that age is
Yeah, I wouldn't say either. Like, if they wanted to add them on top of a T. Higgins, a DK Metcalf.
right. If they're
Like, all right, we're really loading up. I'd be into that. I don't know that either one individually solves your wide receiver issues.
And real quick with both of them, I don't think either one picks the Patriots at this point in their career. I think they're looking to not put a team over the top, but kind of jump on a team that's already
get one more ring.
Washington or Philadelphia or one of these type teams. And I don't think they're going to be going to a team that's trying to rebuild and start over again. I don't see them trying to be a part of that.
And then on the other thing on Ramondre Stevenson, it's a make or break year for Stevenson.
Yeah,
I would agree with that, especially when it comes to the fumbles. So, and that's why, good running back class, just in case, get the next guy now. They're available. So, all right, we're into some reminiscing a little bit today. It's Pro Bowl week. It's kind of as weird as it sounds. It's a deadish time on the NFL calendar. Really notable anniversary for the Patriots this year. We'll get to that next on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
Wilson with 33 seconds and counting. Waiting on the snap. Lynch to his left, Baldwin to the left as well. Stacked receivers, 2 to the right. Russell Wilson extends the hands he has. Wilson, quick throw. And it's intercepted! Intercepted by Malcolm Butler! Butler has it at the 1! Malcolm Butler stepping in front of the throw! No way! And the Patriots have possession with 20 seconds to go in Super Bowl 49 with a 4-point lead over the Seahawks.
It's got to be one of the dumbest calls offensively in Super Bowl history. You are on the 1-yard line, and you have number 24, and you drop back pass. Are you kidding me?
10 years ago yesterday, 10 years ago last night, the Patriots get back to the top of the NFL world in Super Bowl 49, beating the Seattle Seahawks, Malcolm Butler on the goal line. So you hear the highlights of that call all the time, right? It comes up. But the lead up that Bob does, setting the scene, you don't always hear that part. And you hear the tone of Bob's voice, right? Down 4 on the verge of taking the lead. And it I was thinking about this yesterday. Like, we all remember the pick. And we all remember how he felt when he picked the ball off.
It's called Halo.
Put yourself back how you felt 10 seconds before that interception, 20 seconds before that interception.
Man, I can describe it to a T.
Right, not just how happy we were for the interception, but the complete and total 180 of emotions. And Bob and Zoe do such a great job of capturing it there. And again, that lead up from Bob that, you know, it's not in the highlight packages because you don't really put the setting of the scene in highlight packages, but just an excellent job from them. So, it's been 10 years, man. It's been 10 years, which is wild to me.
The catch down the sidelines that he bobbled and made the catch. Once that happened, it was our first year we moved to North Carolina, so just me and my wife and kids are sitting there watching it. I'm on my feet. He makes that catch. It was like 3rd and 18 or something stupid. He makes that catch down the sideline. And I'm like, he caught that. I'm like, here we go again with the crazy catches.
I was like, we're really doing this again. David Tyree, Mario Manningham, we're really doing this again. And it was on Butler, too.
It was, yes. And Butler was all upset about it.
Right.
I melted and fell to the floor. And I remember I was sitting between the couch, and we had a lamp that was standing up. And I'm just sitting there like in a fetal position. Like, I don't even remember the play after that. I think it was a run toward the 5-4 yard, whatever. Something happened.
Well, no, I want to talk about that play because it's a run from the 5, and they block it beautifully.
Yes.
And Marshawn Lynch is going to walk in, and Dante Hightower comes out of nowhere and tackles. And Akeem Ayers helps, too. Akeem Ayers makes a very smart play. As Lynch is falling, he goes to reach the ball out, and Ayers kind of knocks the ball back so it can't get in the end zone. That's a great play, too. That play should not be lost to history.
But it's weird. After that, I remember I screamed to my wife when they lined up. Lynch was behind Russell Wilson. And then Wilson stood back in shotgun. I screamed to my wife. I said, they're going to throw it. They're going to throw the ball. They're going to try and throw the ball here. And I'm not thinking they're going to pick it off. I'm thinking it's going to be incomplete. It stops the clock, that type of stuff. And when that ball got picked off, I never got up off the floor from the other play. I was sitting there like, there's no way this game is over. There's no way they just won like this. I was completely in shock. I couldn't believe it.
My friends got annoyed with me because he picked the ball off, and it was that kind of night, and I was so ready for them to lose it that I was like, wait, because I was waiting for the flag.
Exactly. Yes, something crazy.
We were dead silent for like 5-6 seconds, and I don't remember if it was Al Michaels or somebody in the room yells no flag, and we all went nuts, and that was that. And then remember there was a fight.
There was a fight because they had to get off the one. It was like it's not over yet.
And
what if he gets tackled for safety?
Was it Michael Bennett that he got to jump off sides?
Bennett started it too.
Is Bennett? Yeah, that was. So my question to you on the 10-year anniversary of that game, or a day after the 10-year anniversary, the 10-year anniversary of reacting to that game, I should say. The fourth quarter, we all know that is Tom Brady's Mona Lisa. That is his masterpiece. It is the greatest quarterback quarter in the history of the sport. But when you look at the talent that was on the field, I mean, double-digit Hall of Famers. When you look at what that game meant in the story of the sport, the Patriots getting back to the top. When you look at just the way it ended, arguably the greatest Super Bowl ending of all time. And it's really up there with another one, but another Patriots one. But the greatest Super Bowl ending of all time. Is that the greatest game in NFL history? Does that still hold up as the greatest game in NFL history? Because I certainly think it does.
I think because of the star power, Legion of Boom, Russell Wilson at the time was the man. The Tom Brady factor, the two head coaches with two Hall of Fame coaches going at it. The Seahawks were like the Golden State Warriors at the time. They were the hot
blew
team.
The Broncos out in the Super Bowl the year before. They hung 40-something on them the year before.
I think because of the star power, I would say, and how it ended, I say yes. I still think 28-3 might be the greatest sporting event I've ever seen. And one I'm going to throw in there, I know a lot of people are not going to agree, because it didn't have the star power. Tom Brady, Jake Delhomme, second half was amazing football. But because it was Jake Delhomme, because it was Carolina, it didn't have the juice and the names with it. But that game turned into an amazing shootout in the second half that literally came down to the buzzer as well. And it all kicked off because of Carolina's kicker kicked it out of the bounds.
That's right.
Kicked it out
John
of bounds.
Casey.
And they got it closer. But I think if that Carolina game had more star power, if that would have been the Rams and Patriots going back and forth like that, we would look at that game totally different. But to me, that's one of the greatest offensive shows in Super Bowl history. But 28-3, I think is the best game I think I've ever seen for as a Patriot fan.
So I think, and it's fun, this whole week we get to reminisce because there's Patriot Super Bowls like every day. And it'll be our week forever because now the Super Bowl is a week later, so nobody else is cramming their anniversaries in it. Like I think from an entertainment standpoint, like 28-3 is the most unbelievable game. But you want to talk about football being played at a high level. I don't know that we have ever seen football played at a higher level for 60 minutes, 53 players on both sides. I don't know that the game has ever reached an apex in the sport itself higher than Super Bowl 49. I think that is the best football, 11 on 11, 60 minutes. I think that is the best football that has ever been played in the history of the sport.
Strategy, everything involved in that.
28-3 has an entertainment factor,
but it's a collapse by one team.
Right. It's not. It wasn't necessarily great football. It was a great entertainment product, but it wasn't necessarily the best football.
And real quick, I would say about the call at the end. A lot of people are like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? The Seahawks had done that all season. That was one thing they picked teams apart with that. They would get inside the 5 and spread you out, and it was working all season. Yeah, somebody had put a highlight reel of them doing it almost every week, and no one could stop it.
Well, and I think there was a stat that, like, from the 1 yard line, Marshawn Lynch had like 1 touchdown on 7 carries or something.
Yeah, he wasn't as dominant in short yardage as people want to believe he was. And the Patriots at the time, they were ready for it. They were like, oh, he's coming. We got this. But good on them for recognizing it. Everybody recognizing it. Even down to, I think, the unsung hero of the whole play to me, Brandon Browner.
Yes.
Brandon Browner.
If he doesn't get the jam, it doesn't happen.
If he doesn't get the jam and he fired off the ball immediately. And if you notice, right before the snap, he points to Malcolm Butler and tells him to come up. And he gets the jam and fires off and kind of sets a pick. And Butler fires off right behind him. He's an ex-Seahawk, so he knew some things.
Right.
Coaching was there. Everything was there. But everything had to work out perfectly. Malcolm Butler still had to make that catch and hold on to the ball. So many things. But I think Brandon Browner, if he doesn't do what he does and jams him like that, they get the crossing route and he comes open, and that's a touchdown. So, I mean, shout out to the Patriots and everybody involved, but that's one of the most amazing plays I've ever seen.
I mean, you watch, I forget if it's Do Your Job or whatever documentary it's in, like the background and how they repped that play in practice nonstop, and Malcolm Butler was like struggling with it in practice, and like ton of credit to the Patriots coaching staff. What I've always said, they had to throw there once. They had one timeout, so they had a run to mix in, but they had to throw there once. I get why they threw. I understand why they threw that specific pass play, kind of a one read. You're counting on it was Chris Matthews, who was like a nobody, who had this unbelievable game.
Yeah, he was the reason they were in it.
Right. You're counting on, I think it was Chris Matthews to get that jam, or it might have been Curse to get that jam. And
it was Curse. Curse got shoved back. Yep.
I've always questioned the pass play itself. I understand why they threw it. Calling that pass to me, but it was telegraphed, and the Patriots were ready for it, and they did a great job getting ready for that all week.
Real quick, so many people saying how dumb that was back then. Every team in the NFL now lines up 4 wide from the 1. It's amazing how things have
nobody's
changed.
Learned a thing. And by the way, the guy whose idea it was now works for Tom Brady. So full circle. Was Super Bowl 49, was that the greatest game in NFL history? 617-779-0985. I want to get back to the draft, though. We just talked about the Senior Bowl. I want to get some non-Senior Bowl guys because we got some interesting info-ish on that as well this week. 617-779-0985. You want to join on that? Quick check of the headlines, 90 seconds, no commercials, and we're back here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
It's got to be one of the dumbest calls offensively in Super Bowl history.
From the Town Fair Tire Studios, this is Boston's home for sports.
Soccer cross, they scored. Porzingis. Point a shot, rebound, score.
WBCFM and HD Boston 98.5, the Sports Hub. The Media Group Station. Sports Hub headlines.
For those of you just waking up, yes, it's real. The blockbuster trade in the NBA last night between the Dallas Mavericks and Los Angeles Lakers. Luka Doncic going to L.A. along with Maxi Keebler and Markieff Morris. The Mavericks getting back Anthony Davis, Max Christie, and 1 first-round pick from the Lakers. That's in 2029. Danny Ainge and the Jazz also got involved in this 3-team deal. They landed Jalen Hood-Schifino in 2 second-round picks. The Celtics will host the new-look Mavericks later this week, but first the Celtics visit the Sixers tonight. Coverage starts at 5:30 right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. The Bruins picked up a win yesterday, beating the New York Rangers 6-3. David Pastrnak had a hat trick and 4 points total in that one. 2025 Pro Bowl games wrap up today in Orlando. Drake May is there representing the Patriots. In the local college hoops yesterday, big win for UConn as they knocked off number 9 Marquette 77-69 in Big East play. Providence nearly picked up a big East win, but lost to number 15 St. John's 68-66. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's home for sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Those are your Sports Hub headlines. Your next update at 10 o'clock.
Some people play the game.
Hey, Jalen Brown. Blocked by Horford.
Some talk about
Let's welcome to the Sports Hub Celtics Show, by the way. Jim Murray, Chris Gasper.
the Sports Hub Celtics Show with Murray and Gasper. Saturdays at noon on the Sports Hub. You're listening to Sunday Kickoff with Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle on your station for the best football coverage. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Here's the reverse. Trickery. Hunter steps up. Hunter dives. Touchdown, Colorado. Travis Hunter. 48-24 Buffs.
Back here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff, Alex Barth, Cerrone Battle, George Sepulveda behind glass. As we move on a Pro Bowl edition. I guess I should call it Senior Bowl edition at this point. We're doing more Senior Bowl stuff anyway. And we'll get to the Pro Bowl in a little bit. I do want to talk a little bit about the Pro Bowl, but I want to talk about some of the non-Senior Bowl prospects as well. Also, I love everybody tweeting in their Malcolm Butler interception stories. Jeff shares he's a house full of Niners fans. So there was Seattle hate, so he kind of had that moment. Again, 617-779-0985. My question to you, the people, is that the greatest game in NFL history? Me, Matt McCarthy, Tim McCone, when Brady retired, did Tom Brady's 23 best games. We had a lot of arguments, but we all agreed right away that game was at the top of the list. So you want to weigh in on that? You want to weigh in on the draft? 617-779-0985. But what are sorry, go ahead.
I'm just laughing. The Seahawks. You said that was Brady's Mona Lisa. That was his game.
Yeah.
One of the biggest memories of that moment. It was a shot after the game where the camera's behind his shoulders and he looks bigger than everybody else by the angle. He's got his helmet off, and the confetti's falling, and just it looked like a slow motion moment the way the confetti was behind his shoulders, and it literally felt like that moment in The Matrix where they say he's the one. And it was like, that's it. That's his he's now the greatest football player of all time. He's now the greatest quarterback ever. And I don't think he has to do anything else. That was the moment I felt after that. And then the images came out of him on one knee and Richard Sherman, reaching down to shake his hand. And I said, yeah, that's it. That's his moment. There's nothing ever going to top this. And then 28-3 happens. But
and then he had like 5 more.
He went a bunch
over the next few years.
But I think that moment he's better than Montana now. He's now the greatest quarterback of all time after what he did to that defense that Peyton Manning couldn't even cross midfield against. So I think that was a huge moment for Tom Brady's legacy.
I think also Rob Gronkowski. I think that's when Rob Gronkowski really solidified himself in the greatest tight end of all time. He was obviously very good. And it was only a couple years in his career, but he was just Seattle, that great defense, had no answer for him. None.
No, Julian Edelman either. He was picking them apart.
Oh, yeah. Well, the third and long over the middle, right, where he takes that shot and holds on to the ball, that's an all-time play. We could really do the next hour on this game, but
you can break that game
down. If you guys call in and talk about, I'll keep going, 617-779-0985. I do want to get into specifically Travis Hunter when we talk about the guys at the top of the draft. Look, so which way is it going to go? This is going to be kind of big for Patriots fans to follow. Is it one quarterback in the top 3? Do 2 quarterbacks go in the top 3? Do none go? Because that's going to impact the trade value of that pick. And if it is one, who is there a situation where the Patriots have a shot at Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter? At this point, I think Abdul Carter is probably going to be the first non-quarterback off the board. That might mean 1-1. I think Travis Hunter is maybe a little more likely. And I thought this was interesting from Evan Lazar on Patriots.com this week, just talking about Senior Bowl takeaways in general, but he writes this. My last takeaway from the Senior Bowl was that although the majority says Hunter's a corner, there's a camp that, and I think he's talking league-wide here, there's a camp that believes he's a better wide receiver. In other words, I wouldn't say it's corner or bust for Hunter in the NFL. Interesting. So I remember about a month and a half ago, Jay Glazer from Fox Sports had a report that it was like 12 of 13 or 14 of 15. He talked to double-digit number of teams, and he said all but one viewed Hunter as a corner. So maybe Evan found the one team. I don't know. Travis Hunter as a wide receiver, now that we know Josh McDaniels is designing the offense, does become a little bit more interesting to me. And I think what the question becomes, I still think Travis Hunter is a better corner. Yeah. I think he'd be a better corner in the NFL. What you need to ask yourself as a team, and there's layers to this, but at the top, would you rather have, and this is where positional value comes in, an A-plus corner or an A-minus wide receiver? And if I were to say to you, let's say it's 2 different players, right? You could add
which one do you take?
Right, you could add to the Patriots today the 5th best cornerback in the NFL or the 10th best wide receiver. Who are you taking?
The corner.
Okay, interesting. So you would go corner.
I'm going corner. If I'm looking at the league, I'm looking at the quarterbacks I'm facing. I'm looking at what it takes to win.
For this Patriots team, not just in general, for this Patriots team.
Because if I have a chance to have 2 Pro Bowl corners, I think that makes my life so easy as a defense. After I look around the NFL, I can have Jamar Chase, the best wide receiver in the league, and not make the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't think wide receivers impact as much as having a dominant secondary. If I have Gonzalez and Travis Hunter as my tandem for the next decade, or let's say 5 years, I know passing against my team is going to be hard, especially in New England, in the cold. You got to make perfect throws with those 2 athletes, knowing if you make one mistake, it's going the other way. I think it makes my defensive line better. I think it makes my safeties better. I think it just makes me a dangerous team that can turn a game in a heartbeat. And I think I'll take a dominant receiver. I mean, a dominant corner to go with Gonzalez over a wide receiver.
So I think the Patriots are a team that could draft Hunter as a receiver. And what I mean by that is, that's not, I think that they're a team that views him as a receiver. Like, it would make sense. Because you already have Gonzalez. I think Hunter's a fit for what McDaniels wants to do. You expand that Danny Amendola role to a full-time role. because I don't. My big question with Hunter's durability, and I don't know that I want him getting 120 targets over the middle, right? But if there's a way to kind of expand, or not even Danny Amendola, maybe more the Chris Hogan role of being like a vertical slot threat that is taking advantage of like that. If you're all right, we're going to hit the slot receiver 7 yards over the middle time and time again until they take it away. Once they step up to take it away, right? Once the Pittsburgh Steelers put everybody in the box to take that away, you let him run down the field. Nobody's going to cover him. Yeah. We know how that goes. That might be the role.
He's so. I'm looking at him as his thin frame.
Yeah, that is the concern for me. He's not Edelman. He's not going to be in that role.
Stucky. Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see when we get a little closer if we find out he's in play, what we kind of hear. And we're up against it. But the other thing I think you need to ask yourselves, a team about Hunter, you can't draft Travis Hunter and then say, all right, well, now we'll figure it out, right? He's a tremendous player, but his development is not easy. You need to know, all right, we're going to play you full-time at wide receiver with occasional snaps at corner. We're going to play you full-time at corner, occasional snaps at wide receiver. He needs to be on board. What happens if you go to the pre-draft meeting with him and say, all right, Travis, we're drafting you as a corner, and he says, nope, I want to play wide receiver, right? Yeah. Do you still draft him and then try to convince him? Does he suddenly fall down your board? Things like that. So it'll be interesting.
Or do you take him as a DB and say, hey, we're going to use you in the red zone a lot on offense? Right. Is he cool with that? Or the other way around, we're going to play as a wide receiver, but in red zone situations or anything inside the 20, you're going to play. Yeah, we're going to put you out there at corner.
So
he might be cool with either way.
It'll be interesting to see, and he might be good with all of it. Like, I don't know, but it's kind of a unique thing that'll probably be more out of the combine. It'll be interesting to see here, which teams' pitches does he like? What teams are asking what kind of questions? Whatever information we get out of that will be fascinating. So,
you bring up the combine real quick? Does he do both?
He can't play at the combine. He might, but he's not going to play both ways full time in the NFL.
No, I mean just at the combine. Is he going to have a day as a DB and then come in tomorrow as a day as a receiver? You know what I'm saying? Like, is he going to participate on both sides of the ball at the combine?
He might. He also might just skip the combine. Sometimes those top 5 guys look.
Oh, there's no reason for me to go.
Year, right? Well, he'll go. He'll go to talk to teams and weigh in. But he may not do on. I wouldn't be surprised if he just doesn't do on field drills. Yeah, and then he'll do both ways at the pro day. So we're well past it. I'm fine to get into some more reminiscing. So Reed and Waltham, I see you on the line. Hang on, we'll do a little bit more of that next here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub. football on Sunday.
Coming to the game on Sunday.
This is Sunday Kickoff with Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
45-yard field goal attempt coming up. Snap, ball down. Kick up on the way, and it is good. It is good. 45 yards. Adam Vinatieri kicks it through the snow, and we're tied at 13 with 27 seconds left to play.
Another great call. The great Gil Santos. Well, we're in the reminiscing mode. Hall of Fame announcement is this week. 2025 Pro Football Hall of Fame class. Adam Vinatieri among the finalists. Up to five of these players will get picked. Eric Allen, Jared Allen, Willie Anderson, Jari Evans, Antonio Gates, Torrey Holt, Luke Kuechly, Eli Manning, Steve Smith, Terrell Suggs, Fred Taylor, Vinatieri, Reggie Wayne, Darren Woodson, Marshall Yanda. Adam Vinatieri should be in. He's the greatest kicker of all time.
Yeah.
Does he get in with that class? I could see it. Like, I look at it, Steve Smith's a Hall of Famer. Luke Kuechly's a Hall of Famer. Terrell Suggs a Hall of Famer. Darren Woodson is a Hall of Famer. I think Vinatieri, I don't need him to get in first ballot. It would be great. I think he's right there at 5 with, like, Torrey Holt. Oh, Antonio Gates will get in. The one that bugs me, like, Eli's going to get in. He's not a Hall of Famer. He'll only be the second quarterback in with a record of 500 or worse, joining Joe Namath, who's pretty widely regarded as like the least deserving Hall of Famer ever. But his last name's Manning, so he's going to be in. Do you think Vinatieri gets in, Cerrone?
I don't know if he gets in. I think he should be in. If you're the greatest at your position in the history of the sport, you should be in the Hall of Fame. 100%. I don't care what it is. I mean, it's if Devin Hester can get in as a kick returner, I think if you're going to include special teamers, which was the right call. Yeah, it's right. Absolutely right. He's the best return man in the history of the sport. There's no one better at his position. As good as Deion Sanders, some of these other guys were, he's the best ever. But Adam Vinatieri is the greatest kicker of all time. I mean, you see what what's his name in Baltimore? He's just fallen off now. But
he had a rough week.
Yeah, he's got a lot of things going on right now. But Vinatieri, I mean, he's got the championships. He's got the big game kicks in the Super Bowl. He's got the big game kicks to get you to the Super Bowl. Inclement weather. I mean, you name it. He's incredibly clutch. Longevity. He's the greatest kicker of all time. And if you limit the Hall of Fame to skill position guys and left tackles, then that's not fair to players. You're basically telling everybody from this point on, hey, if you do anything besides play quarterback, running back, left tackle, and defensive end, you're not getting in the Hall of Fame. And I think that's pretty sad. And I kind of feel that way with Rodney Harrison. Well, it's like
Rodney Harrison is his own thing. That's just wrong.
What are you holding against him?
It's anti-Patriots bias. He was viewed as a dirty player. He doesn't want to play the game. It's an illegitimate Hall of Fame without Rodney Harrison. Plain and simple.
Statistically, he's better than guys that are already in there.
So the number I always use, and you can make his case in a million ways, but the one I always go back to, he was the first ever 30-30 player, 30 interceptions, 30 sacks for his career. The only person who's joined him since is Ray Lewis, who got in on the first ballot, and nobody else is close.
No, nobody else is them too.
There's nobody active that's Harrison Smith might be 2020 now. I haven't checked the number since the end of the season. Harrison Smith might be 2020, but he's not getting 10 more of each.
No.
And nobody else is there. So it's insane Harrison isn't in. That's its own thing. But to your point, the NFL in the last 10 years has become a game with specialization. The Hall has always been about not just the premium positions, but the textbook within the premium positions. To them, wide receiver doesn't mean wide receiver. It means big X outside wide receiver. Terrell Owens, who also they didn't put in. They put Marvin Harrison in over Terrell Owens, which was wrong too. But it's like ridiculous. The Randy Moss types, right?
Yeah.
They're going to have to start considering slot receivers. They're going to have to start considering pass catching backs, Larry Centers. They're going to have to start considering, these return specialists, special teamers, Matthew Slater. That's going to be a whole thing. They really need to expand their horizons over there at the Hall of Fame.
And they pick and choose who they want to use, whose playoff resumes they want to use.
Correct.
Like, for example, if you're going to say, we're going to include regular season, what you did in the postseason, Super Bowls, whatever, If you do that, then the Julian Edelmans and guys like that get in. The guy is top 5 all time in playoff catches and yards, Super Bowl wins. He fits all the criteria. If you're going by career stats and longevity, there isn't a single Steeler that belongs in the Hall of Fame. But yet half the organization is in the Hall of Fame because you counted their Super Bowls and what they did in the postseason and not really regular season stuff. So, I mean, it's. I think when you do the Hall of Fame, they should have, okay, every year we're going to take an offensive guy, say a lineman, defensive lineman, a special teams guy. You're going to have you got to have a designated spot for special teamers, linemen, and guys like that get in every year. If not, the further we go, it's just like you said, skill position guys and guys like that. It's not fair to some of these players.
And to most of with the Super Bowls, like that used to be a standard. Then Ty Law had to wait. Richard Seymour had to wait. Vince Wilfork's currently having to wait.
Rodney Harrison.
Yeah. I think I made it very clear how I feel about that. That is a hot button issue for me. I'm just hoping he gets in before Slater's eligible, because that's going to be its own battle, and I don't know that I could do both of those at once. I wouldn't be surprised. Vinatieri, he has the most points in the history of the league. He should be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but I'm not convinced that he's going to be. All right, well, we're reminiscing. Reed and Waltham, I'm very excited to take this call. Reed.
Oh, hey. It's hard today not to reminisce about how that Butler interception just ricocheted my mood. I went from elation to terrible despair.
Why was that?
It was awful. Yelling at the screen like a lot of other people. Why'd you pass the ball? It was just, it was crushing. I'm not rooting against the Patriots because they're rival of any particular team of mine. It just seeing the cheaters get their due, and it's hard living up here with the people with the hate us because you ain't us mentality.
I mean, I think that's what it was, Reed. His comment line said he was a Jets fan. I was waiting for that, but
it's called Halo.
Remember that was the whole Deflategate thing too. Was that AFC Championship? And we didn't know. I remember, that was so. The Patriots beat the Colts Sunday night. Monday morning, I drove back. I was in college. I drove back out to school, and I get in, and I lived with a bunch of Jets fans and Bills fans. Those are my friends. I made do somehow. And I walk in the door of our apartment. It was 6 of us lived in this apartment, and one of my friends goes, "Oh, so the Patriots cheating again?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "Oh, they deflated footballs, blah blah blah." I'm like, "It's definitely nothing. It's you're a Jets fan. You're bitter. I couldn't care less about this, and then who knew it was going to dominate our lives for the next however many years."
I can't believe people actually made up in their minds that it's easier to play football with a flat football than one that's inflated and say, "Oh yeah, of course they won. The ball was flat." I'm like, dude, let's go outside and play football right now and take the air off the ball and see how good of a quarterback you are.
They were running. They
ran the ball 40 times.
That was like Garrett Blunt, because the Colts the week before the Ravens game. Remember that second half? I think they ran it 4 times. They couldn't run on the Ravens. They came out in the second half. That's that's probably third
of
the
great
best
game.
Brady games. I would say it's 49, it's 51. That Ravens game, it's the best game in Gillette Stadium history. It's the best non-Super Bowl in Patriots history. So they came out and they threw, and then a week later the Colts come in with that weak run defense that Jonas Gray had torn up the year before. It was like a freezing rain all night.
It was, yeah.
Brady throws that bad pick early, which was probably the worst pick of his career, all things considered, letting whoever it was get who was the linebacker get his hands on.
I can't think of his name. He runs up to the sidelines like, "Oh, look, it feels funny."
Who was the linebacker?
Jackson. I think his first name was DeQuell.
DeQuell Jackson, that's right. Probably the worst pick of Tom Brady's career, pound for pound. But it was they couldn't throw the ball. Nobody could throw the ball, and they were like, "We're just going to give it to LeGarrette Blunt." And that was the game, one of the games where he posed with the end zone office. So it was like, oh yeah, that really impacted the handoffs. Brady is throwing bad picks in the first half. Ridiculous. Let's go to we keep the reminiscing going. 617-779-0985. Let's go to Steve in Salem. Steve.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I wanted to ask you a couple questions real quick. One, what do you guys think of Ty Warren, tight end out of Penn State? Would he be a more logical selection, given the the McDaniels offense that's about to kick in and the comparisons to a guy like Gronkowski that are kind of complementary, I would think. Secondly, what do you think about using Joe Milton as a trade chip? Like, could you trade your second-round pick and Joe Milton to move back into the first round if you miss out on an offensive tackle with your first-round pick? Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Steve. So Milton as a trade as a whole, I've kind of said if you can get a top 100 pick for him, do it. Otherwise, you're going to need to probably use the asset you'd get back on a new backup quarterback anyway. Mm-hmm. So just hold on him, see if you can keep getting his value up. Using him in that manner, I don't know that you're going to get that much for him because those teams at the end of the first round don't really need quarterbacks.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting idea. I don't know how it would work in practice, but it's an interesting theory. On the first part, Tyler Warren. So Tyler Warren's a tremendous player.
He's going to be gone.
So, yeah, you're not getting him at 38. You're not. You're going to have to go way up to get him. It probably, if you want to draft Tyler Warren, it probably makes more sense to move down than move up. I don't know that you're going to have to give up. You're probably going to have to give your future first if you want to move up to get Tyler Warren. Moving down, you're going to get a future first and then more. If you're willing to move way down and acquire a ton of assets, like it could be in play. I just think he's a good player. He's in a weak spot for the Patriots. Not a weak spot, but
it's hard to get.
Right, where they're at in the draft, it would take some serious maneuvering, and I just don't know that tight end is that position where you do that kind of maneuvering for that player.
Hey, and I think what Kyle said earlier, I think there's multiple guys out there that have the pass-catching skills at tight end that you can probably find later. You're not going to get that guy, but I think you're going to get guys that can help you out. There's going to be guys available, I believe, later on. And when you get to the combine, you start watching these guys run and seeing what they can do with the ball, you're going to hear a lot of names and a lot of hype come out with this tight end class later on in the year. So I think you're going to be able to get one later, but that kid's going to be gone. He's too good for that.
It's a nice thought. It's a nice thought, but it just doesn't make sense for where they're at right now.
If he slides, I'd be amazed. If he's there later, of course, but
if you get a tackle at the top and he starts, he's there 20, 21, 22, now, you start making calls.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to fall down that far. So you'd have to be willing to move well down in order to make that happen. It is Pro Bowl week, so I feel like we should talk a little bit of Pro Bowl. We'll do that next as we wrap up. We'll also get to your calls. You want to call in, last chance here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff, 617-779-0985. Be right back here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Would not say that I'm Mona Lisa Vito of the football world.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
We only get 48 minutes.
the swing of the right leg.
Every football game starts with a kickoff. This is Sunday Kickoff with Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle on your home for Patriots football. 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Hey, we want to know who's your biggest op on Sunday, besides probably me.
Oh, man. It's the whole NFC squad.
Whole NFC squad, that's what we like.
I'm going to say the NFC right now, but
yes, sir.
I don't like nobody on Buffalo.
Hey, there we go.
What color is the NFC wearing?
Blue.
Anyone in blue.
There we go. That's been a hot answer. It's been a hot answer. I like
I mean, I guess it would be Nick Bonito, division rival. Probably myself, I just want to make sure where that ball's from, I'm going to catch it.
Who's your biggest op here at the Pro Bowl and for the game tomorrow?
My biggest op, somebody from the Bills. So wherever they are. I'm going Deion Dawkins, my biggest op.
There we go. Appreciate it. Mike, New England Patriots.
That was Drake May, Patriots content team, doing a great job down in Orlando. They had Drake May interviewing some of the other Pro Bowlers. Drake May is in the Pro Bowl. He was named as an alternate. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson opted out. He went with Russell Wilson. Supposedly Bo Nix was asked, didn't want to go. And I know people are downplaying it. Oh, it's just like Mac Jones made the Pro Bowl his rookie year. What did that matter? Blah, blah, blah. Look, I get it. The Pro Bowl's watered down. He was named as an alternate. I'm not going to take a victory lap on that. But this can be good for the Patriots.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of things like that clip right there. You know what you can do at All-Star games? Recruit. Recruit. Drake May's down there recruiting. Get something, and maybe it's not on camera. We're talking NBA drama today. Remember Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving in the tunnel at that All-Star game?
It all happens like that now. That's the way sports works. It's Olympic basketball. It's All-Star games. This is where the negotiations really happen. It's like a golf course for corporate America. This is what they do.
So look, do I have any interest in watching Drake May play flag football? Not particularly. No, I don't. Am I glad he's there? Absolutely.
Yep.
Get talking. Start selling, Drake. Recruit,
and
recruit.
There's going to be somebody in practice that's going to say, oh, he can throw the ball like that.
Right.
Oh, I like the way okay. And now free agency comes up in a year or two. You think, you know what? I know who can get me the ball where I need it. And it's this kid that I played with at the Pro Bowl. I mean, just getting your talent out there in front of these other players and getting reps with Pro Bowl level players is good for you. And on the other side, they all know what you're capable of. And they're going to keep that in mind when negotiations come around. Free agency comes up for some of these guys later on.
And they go back and they talk to their friends. Drake throws a great ball. I got to catch him at the Pro Bowl. Drake, right? That kind of thing. So don't, I know we all had our fun with that this week. Oh, the Pro Bowl. Oh, wow.
Never mind what goes on during the game. This is stuff between the games.
Right. We can joke about it. Look, the Pro Bowl's been effectively ruined. But you can still recruit. You can still recruit. Get that recruiter hat on, Drake. Maybe you can call Bill, get some tips, because he's been doing a great job at UNC.
Didn't Bill do that with what's the guy, the linebacker from Baltimore?
No, it wasn't recruiting. Oh, who was it?
He coached he was good too. Super athletic outside linebacker.
Was it Peter Boulware?
Not Peter Boulware. The one that came. He had a dominant Super Bowl against the Giants, but ended up losing. What's his name?
He was
crazy fast outside linebacker from the
Pro
Ravens.
Bowl. And he needed an alternate, and he picked some guy because he knew that if he picked the guy, that the
got
Ravens,
him in free agency.
The Ravens would have to. Yeah, it was Peter Boulware. I found it right here. If this is what you're talking about, so
no, not Boulware. He was the starter for the Patriots. I think he made the Pro Bowl as a Patriot. Outside linebacker.
Roosevelt Colvin?
No, not Colvin.
Adelius Thomas.
It's driving me crazy. Say it again. Adelius Thomas was in the Pro Bowl, and Belichick was coaching. And he was a free agent that year. And there's a video of them standing next to each other, and they're laughing and talking. And the day one of free agency, Patriots signed Adelius Thomas. It was like, wait, what? And but it was later came out that it was like, oh, yeah, we had a good relationship at the Pro Bowl and all this other stuff. And it's like Bill was out there wheeling and dealing at the Pro Bowl.
Go. I thought you were talking about there's a story where when he was coaching the Pro Bowl, he needed like an alternate. He had to pick an alternate. And remember, like he hated Art Modell, right? So he picked Peter Boulware because he had a $1 million bonus in his contract for making the Pro Bowl. So Art Modell had to pay it. That's another famous story. Cool. But you're right about Thomas. So Drake May hopefully goes better than Adelius Thomas.
Yes.
But can't talk. Thank you. I see people tweeting it in now. Let's grab a couple calls here before we wrap things up. Angela in Rhode Island on the Hall of Fame. Angela, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
Hey.
I've been listening, and I didn't hear you mention when you were talking about the finalists this year.
Yeah.
I didn't hear you mention Sterling Sharp or Mike Holmgren. I just want to know what your take is on that.
Okay, thanks for calling, Andrew. So those are the modern.
Sterling Sharp should be in.
Yeah, those are the modern era finalists. There's also this is the one. Remember, Kraft was up for like the contributor committee. Are either of those guys finalists this year? Holmgren or Sharp? Sharp should be in.
I thought Sharp was.
Is he like the veteran committee or whatever? There's so many committees now.
Yeah.
Sharp should be in. Holmgren's an interesting one. I think there's maybe a couple coaches that should get in before him, but I could see it. He was with the Packers there for a while.
How many Super Bowls did he coach in? Did he? Now, I know he won.
It was one with the Seahawks. It was that stupid one against the Steelers with the refs. And then he
won in Green Bay.
Another. I think he only coached in 2.
Okay.
He coached in 3 because they went back-to-back in Green Bay in 96-97.
Okay. He lost to the Broncos. That's right.
Yep. And then they lost, I think it was, what was it, 40?
Yeah, with the Steelers. And Ben Roethlisberger was still 2 yards short of the end zone.
Right, yes, exactly. Then everybody, oh, my God, they marked Josh Allen short. I've never seen anything like that.
Yeah. Go back and watch that one. If that was in HD, oh, my God, it'd be so bad on the league. But he was short by a mile.
I saw somebody tweet yesterday the picture of who was the Titans receiver that was a yard short.
Oh, yeah,
and
Kevin Dyson.
Kevin Dyson. Somebody say Bills fans will tell you he was in the end zone. Let's go to Andy in Sudbury. Andy on the draft.
Morning, Alex. How are you?
Morning.
Good. Just the first shout out to Drake May. I love that shot with him and Peyton Manning. So what do you guys think? I saw a mock draft as I was watching the Senior Bowl yesterday about the defensive tackle out of Michigan, Mason Graham. What are your takes on him? I'm just wondering.
Thanks for the call, Andy. So
Game wrecker.
He's a great player. He's a tremendous player. But for the Patriots specifically, assuming Christian Barmore is back. If Barmore's not back, I think Graham's in play. We want Barmore to be back. Obviously, you hope he's healthy and he can continue playing. The Patriots essentially have 3 blue chip players. It's Drake May, Christian Gonzalez, and Christian Barmore. Using a top 5 pick on a position where you already have a guy, like you got to spread the wealth on the roster.
Yeah.
You need talent in other places. So I would be looking to trade down if Mason Graham was the best player on the board. I wouldn't be upset if they took him. And if they're going to play this new, more aggressive defense, like him and Barmore in the middle, you could have some fun with that, certainly. But to me, like they got to spread it out a little bit. And I don't know, like defensive tackle is not a premium position to me. And it is a good defensive tackle draft. I'd much rather get like Deion Walker in a second, Cam Jackson, Darius Alexander, who Taylor Kyles talked about earlier. Like those guys, they're not as good as Graham, but if you put them next to Barmore, you're going to get a good impact. And try to get a player at an impact position, edge rusher, a receiver, a corner, or just a haul. Move down and get a haul. So that's I'm lukewarm on Mason Graham. I don't think it would be a bad pick.
Yeah, I wouldn't be upset if they did it.
I think that they could do better.
Yeah. I think if you get somebody like an Abdul Carter on the edge who's just blowing up every passing down.
If Carter's there, you sprint the card up to the table.
Yeah, you go get Abdul Carter because now I think, you don't have Mason Graham in the middle, but now you're allowing Keon White to eat also on the other side. So now you have
Barmore still in the middle.
And Barmore. You have Abdul Carter, Barmore, and Keon White. And I don't think D-line will be a problem come next season. And I don't think anybody's running on you 17 times in a row with those 3 guys playing at their best. And I think you would get an Abdul Carter because he would open things up for everybody else. And remember, Christian Barmore 2 years ago was your leading sack guy. He had 8.5, 9 sacks. So he gets after the quarterback. And having a guy like that on the outside would allow, I think, Keon White now to be one-on-one on the other side, and he can get his numbers up and continue to eat the way he started off this season. And you have Bentley coming back, who I think had like 6.5 sacks 2 years ago before he got hurt as well, too.
If they're going to make these adjustments, it sounds like they're going to make, he's going to be a little more free to rush the quarterback, too, so that could go up. I was listening to the impact positions earlier. I was saying I should have included left tackle. That's my bad. That's on the list, too. Stanley and Taunton on the draft. Stanley.
My favorite guys. How you guys doing on this beautiful Sunday morning? Thank you. So I'm tired of seeing these mock drafts with Travis Hunter because we all know that if Travis Hunter comes here, no matter what it is, he's not playing wide receiver. He doesn't have the frame nor size to play wide receiver at the professional level. He's going to play cornerback, and if he does play cornerback, him and Christian Gonzalez are going to be the best duo of all time. But realistically, this is the one time we can say we might get a true number one because we're not going to get T. Higgins to come here for the reason why that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts passed the millionaire's tax. And not only that, we can't draft a receiver. And I've been saying that since I was a teenager. And we had the chance to draft Demaryius Thomas my freshman year of high school. I'm looking back at it now. We had the chance to get T-Mac at the 4th round. Yes, it's high to get him. He's like a mid-first round. But it's either we get him or we improve on the pass rush to get Abdul Carter. It's one of the other guys. I honestly want your opinion. I think we should just get T-Mac.
Thanks for the call, Stanley. I like McMillan. I think he's a good player. So I should say on Hunter, if they're going to draft him as a corner, I kind of feel the same way I do about Mason Graham.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's a more premium position, so I'm a little more interested. If they're going to draft him as a receiver, that's a different story. I think he can be a number one. He's not going to be a true outside X, but I think he can be a coverage dictator.
Oh, yeah.
Hunter.
If you talk about a guy who played both ways, if you line his numbers up with T-Mac, he was better in every possible way.
Well, except when they went head-to-head receiver corner. T-Mac cooked him.
Yeah.
That was last year.
Yeah, that was last year. Yeah. And I think that's what put him on the map. But he absolutely can get big game numbers. He's incredible hands. Incredible. He's built like T. Higgins. But I think he's going to get heavier. He's going to get, once he gets in the NFL program, he's going to put on weight. He's already extremely fast and athletic. And he's something that the Patriots haven't had in a really long time. And that's somebody that can catch a quick slant and take it 70 yards with no problem. And I think a guy like that, something you mentioned last year, we talked about last season and this season, somebody that dictates coverage.
Yeah.
Somebody that makes a defensive coordinator say, we're going to roll everything to his size and he's not going to beat us. And that opens up everything else along the way. And I think he's that type of player. And down in the red zone, the kid can be covered. We've seen that. You can put two people over there and he'll come down with it. And I think he gives you those skills and he will put on the weight. So I think he can be a number one guy or close to, especially in today's league. And his frame is thin, but there are guys in the NFL. Everybody's not going to be Metcalf.
Right. Look, you can be a number one without being a volume guy.
Yeah,
you can be a number one. Like, he's not going to be a guy that's going to catch 8 to 10 passes, right? We think number one in McDaniel's offense, it's like 8 catches, 90 yards, right?
Mm-hmm.
Travis Hunter's more like 4 catches, 110 yards.
Yeah.
That's the kind of player.
One of them's going to be a big play.
So McMillan's kind of the same, but he wins differently. He's that, and I think McMillan can be a coverage dictating receiver too. My only holdup with McMillan is like those kind of guys have not historically had success in the Josh McDaniels offense. Yeah. And this is where we get into that question of, well, what does the new Josh McDaniels offense look like? Because if he molds it around Drake May, McMillan is a really good receiver for Drake May. So does McDaniels build that role out maybe more than he has in the past? The closest comp, like I go back, and I think McMillan's a much better player, but it's Brandon LaFell. We've been talking so much about the 14 Patriots. Can you build that out, that roll out into a primary role? That's what you're doing if you take McMillan. Again, would not be a bad pick. I think Hunter as a receiver is probably a better fit for what Josh McDaniels wants to do traditionally. McMillan, I can totally see the path to it working in New England. It's just going to take a little more adjustment from Josh McDaniel, and I still want to see who the wide receivers coach is going to be too. I want to get this one more call in before we wrap it up. Dan in Boxford on the draft.
Hey, what's up, boys? Love to listen to you guys on Sunday morning.
Thank you.
Listen, I love Abdul Carter, and I think he would be a game wrecker, and I think we would have such a formidable D-line. However, we do have a young quarterback that we need to build around, and although, like I said, I love Abdul Carter, don't we need to build around Drake May right now, especially on the rookie contract? And then, in turn, Barth, what if not? If you do get Abdul Carter, I mean, let's talk a little. It's a little early to talk about it, but what about in the 2026 draft? Is there any receivers in there that you can build around Drake or any linemen?
Good question, Dan. So I would say first, the building around Drake May thing, like, yes, it is offense and you want to get pieces around them. They're going to do that to some extent this year. They're going to get, you can still get a wide receiver in the second round. You can still get guys in free agency. There is something to be said for building around the quarterback, also improving the defense. So, he's not constantly chasing deficits, right? Yeah. So he can play with the lead, so he can play in close games. So Abdul Carter does help Drake May. Maybe not directly, but at that point, you just need good core players.
Yeah. If he's forcing more 3-and-outs and strip sacks, that's more possessions for your offense on a shorter field.
Right.
Real quick, the Mac Jones rookie year, everybody keeps talking about how many points they scored. If I'm not mistaken, the Patriots had 25 interceptions, something ridiculous that year. They got the ball back a lot, and Mac Jones was able to play from the 30 and 40-yard line over and over again and allowed them to get more points. At the very least, they were coming out with 3 every time they got the ball off those turnovers. So if you have a guy that's giving you the ball back every time, just forcing 3-and-outs, you're going to get more possessions for your offense to score more points.
And real quick, I'm not against if they don't get a tackle at the top. They know they don't like any tackles in this draft. Sign Cam Robinson on a 1-year bridge deal. Caden Proctor is probably going to be the number 1 from Alabama, number 1 left tackle in next year's draft. We will be back next week. Super Bowl preview, a lot more draft stuff to get to, a lot more offseason stuff to get to. In the meantime, you can get a recap of the show if you missed any of it on the Sports Hub YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcast, Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. Follow Cerrone on Twitter at Cerrone_Battle. You can find me at RealAlexBarth. Joe Murray, Leroy Irvin coming up next. I'll do it for this week's Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. George Sepulveda behind the class. Great job. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
This is Sean Grande, voice of the Celtics. Tune in tonight at 5:30 for Star Market Celtics Tonight at checkout.